Hey folks, this is Stretch. I'm going to be giving you an overview of what you can expect in the upcoming 6/17 flight night. We're going to be reviewing instrument departures, instrument flying, and instrument approaches. I'm going to be flying exactly what you'll be flying so that you know what to expect, and kind of talking about it along the way. So if you did the last one, it's going to be pretty much the same as last time. You're going to start by talking to clearance delivery. You'll get a clearance from them. Then you'll talk to tower, get your taxi and takeoff clearance. Tower's going to hand you off to approach after takeoff. Approach will give you services until you fly the instrument approach, at which point you'll be handed back off to tower for your landing clearance. The big difference between last time and this time is that this time we'll be flying from one airport to another, and we'll be flying from Suwon to Cheongju. This is more realistic, but it's also slightly more difficult, means more charts and more frequencies to deal with. So when you guys fly, of course, you'll be talking to clearance, and clearance will give you your routing, but since I'm just kind of flying this by myself, I'll just tell you what we're going to be doing. We are currently parked at Suwon Air Base, ready for taxi, runway 14. We're going to take off runway 14, fly the Suwon 6 departure. That'll take us to the Osan Takan. From there, we'll navigate direct to the Nosong intersection. Nosong intersection is an initial approach fix for the ILS, runway 23 right at Cheongju. So we'll fly that to a full stop landing. Now, of course, when you guys fly it, you're welcome. You're the pilot in command. You don't have to fly the ILS 23 right. You can fly any other approach you want. There's a couple of Takan approaches at Cheongju. You just tell the approach controller which approach you want to fly. And also, I set up Osan as a divert field. So if you don't think you can make it into Cheongju or you'd like to divert, you can divert to Osan, maybe fly an approach there. I should warn you though, the visibility is set pretty low. I've been breaking out right at minimums for the ILS, so if you do choose to fly the Takan, you'll probably have to go missed, but that's good too. It means you get practice on the missed approach. Okay, so when you talk to clearance, you'll get your routing, and you'll also get your altitude. For the sake of this example, let's say we're cleared up to 15,000 feet, and you'll get a squawk code and a frequency. Now, of course, one of the most important part of instrument flying is to do everything as far in advance as possible. If you're doing things at the time they need to be done, you'll fall behind the airplane, and you always want to stay ahead of the airplane. So we're going to do things in advance, especially now that we're on the ground and not moving 250 knots. So we can review the Suwon 6 departure. I hope you're following along with the charts. It'll make this video make a lot more sense. And we can get our airplane set up for the departure. So the Suwon 6 departure is based on the Suwon Takan, which is 22 X-ray. Let's dial that in. And the first course that we fly is the 070 radial. Now, 070 is a radial, so that's an outbound course, but we fly it inbound, so we want to fly the reciprocal. So we want to set the course bug to 250. So let's do that now. We want to take an opportunity to review the departure, make sure we know how it's going to work once we take off. And we also want to get our frequency set up. So normally I'd be dialing in tower frequency, but right now the AI tower is pretty much just yelling at me. It's really annoying, so we're not going to do that. But of course, when you guys fly it, you'll want to dial into tower so that you can talk to our human tower controller, which we'll hopefully have. Okay, let's go taxi. So in the civilian world, at least, we're restricted to 250 knots below 10,000 feet. And 250 knots is a perfectly fine speed to do instrument flying. Any faster than that, you're going to find things happen a little too quickly for comfort. So we'll respect that below 10,000 feet. In addition, as a reminder, instrument flying doesn't begin until you're 400 feet above the airport. Airport elevation here is 150 feet, so we're not going to go heads down until we're 550 feet. And we're going to come out of burner quickly to make sure that our airspeed doesn't go out of control and we stay below 250 the whole time. Let's run our checks. our navigation checks, we've got TACAN set, 22 X-ray. We want to set the navigation mode to TACAN. Course is set. And frequencies are all correct. We kind of skipped the squawk code, but that's another thing we could check. Let's just pretend we were told to squawk 6400. Okay, at the hold short line, we'll do our pre-takeoff checks. Probe heat on, lights on, sec off, speed brake out, ejection controls armed, master arm off, radar to CRM, and radar altimeter on, final clear. Landing light on. Okay, let's go flying. Let's run it up. F-tit and oil temperature look good. Let's go. We're going to rotate a little higher than normal because of the crosswind. Positive rate, gear up, now to burner. Okay, there's 550. Let's go heads down. We're going to hold heading 140 till we reach 4 DME. Now we want to be at or above 1,500 by 4 DME. That's not going to be a problem for the F-16. And there's 1,500. We're continuing to 15,000. There's 4 DME. Let's begin our left turn. Of course, all turns in instrument flying are done at standard rate, which at 250 knots is 30 degrees bank. Now we want to cross Suwon at or above 4,000. We're crossing 4,000 now, so again, not a problem for the F-16. At some point, tower would tell you to switch over to approach, so let's go to uniform 13, and let's do our after takeoff checklist. Landing light off, landing gear up, no lights. Okay, because we're going to have to switch to OSON so quickly, let's get 94 dialed into the scratch pad. So all we have to do is hit enter when we cross. We're going to overshoot a bit, but that's okay. We won't increase our bank over 30 degrees. Okay, we're intercepting right before the cross. The needle's going to be really sensitive. So we'll just do our best to fly towards the TACAN. And there's 10,000. We're going to maintain 250 for now, so let's speed up and decrease our climb rate. Okay, there's the cross, 7 T's, so turn to 250, time, not necessary, tune, 94 X-ray twist, heading or course 150, and throttle not necessary, talk not necessary, think. So we want to intercept the 150 course inbound, again, because the radial is 330 and we're flying inbound. We want to do the reciprocal 150. And we want to level off at 15,000. As you can see, we're already starting to intercept the 150 course to Osan. Okay, we have 11 miles to Osan. And continuing our think portion of the 7Ts, once we cross Osan, we want to navigate direct to Nosong. We're going to do that using nav mode, GPS navigation. I've got Nosong as steer point 3, and you will too when you fly it. And you're welcome to use nav mode for that portion. There's only a legal requirement to use TACAN or ILS navigation for TACAN or ILS approaches. And because we're above 10,000, I'm going to let my speed increase a bit, but we don't want to get too fast. And 1,000 to go. Level off at 15. And just fly direct to Osan. So let's get steer point 3 all ready to go. And we'll switch to nav mode once we cross and then do the 7Ts again. Okay, there's the cross. Let's go to nav mode. And turn, time, not necessary. Tune, not needed. Twist, not needed. Throttle, we'll hold. Talk, not needed. And think. So we'll fly direct to Nosong. Now, when you guys fly this, if you look at the ILS, you'll see that at Nosong you have to be at 7,000 feet or above. You'll want to be at 7,000 feet so you're not dumping altitude in the approach. We're at 15,000, so when you guys fly this, you would expect at some point the approach controller to tell you to descend to 7,000. Since I have no approach controller, I'm just going to tell myself to descend to 7,000 when I'm 20 miles out. This is a great opportunity to use some of the automation in the plane to take a load off. So let's set the altimeter to steering mode and altitude hold. Now there is a hold at Nosong published on the chart, but you don't have to fly it, of course, unless you want to or need to, or as part of the missed approach. We're going to fly it just to brush up on our hold. Now, when you guys fly this, you can't just like fly the hold without telling anyone. You have to tell approach that you'd like to fly the hold, and then they'll clear you as requested. But I'm just going to say we're going to fly the hold. It's also a great way to lose some altitude if we come at Nosong a little bit high. The autopilot's holding us at 14.9, which is right at the legal limit for IFR flying. You have to be plus or minus 100 feet, but we'll just accept that for now. So, once we reach 20 miles from Nosong, we'll begin our descent to 7,000. When we get to Nosong, we'll switch back to TACAN navigation and we'll fly the hold. We can get set up for the hold now to kind of save us some work later. So we're not using the CDI, so we can set that for Nosong, which for the hold, the inbound portion is 120, so let's set the course to 120. We can also calculate the entry we're going to use. So to calculate the entry we're going to use, you want to know what the outbound heading of the hold is, and that's 300 down here, and you want to look at what section of your HSI it's in. If it's in the bottom half of the HSI, that means it's a direct entry. And you guys should look at the checklists that I made, the IFR cheat sheets that I made for the 72nd. Those have full descriptions on how to fly the different hold entries. But we're lucky because in this case, since it's a direct entry, we don't really have to do anything special to enter the hold. We just sort of cross Nosong and then start turning for the outbound portion of the hold. Now there's no DME indication printed on the hold, so we're going to assume that it's 1 minute legs. So when we get to no song, we're going to do our 7 T's, including time. We're going to note the seconds on the DED, and we're going to use that as a timer. We're going to fly 1 lap around the hold, and then we're going to turn left for the DME arc. So the arc is at 13 nautical miles, so at about 10 nautical miles DME from the Changju Takan, we're going to begin our left turn. Now, it's important to note how the CDI is going to work here. So the CDI is pointing in the inbound direction of the hold, which is outbound of the Takan. So it's pointing 120, not 300, which would be inbound towards the Takan. But of course, when we make our left turn out of the arc and fly the ILS, we want the needle to be pointing inbound towards the airport. So what we're going to do after we cross no song the second time and turn for the arc is we're going to flip the needle around. So it's going to be pointing 120 to navigate us for the inbound portion of the hold. Then we're going to flip it over to 300 for the first 10 degrees of the arc. And then we're going to increment, we're going to advance the needle by 10 degrees each time until it's pointing at the final bearing. Okay, so we're almost at 20 miles, so let's get ready. Autopilot off, throttle back, and let's descend to 7,000. And we want to be below 250 knots before we're 10,000 feet. Now remember, we're not using the CDI here for this portion of the navigation. We're disregarding it, even though it happens to point pretty much directly the direction we want to point. We're going direct to, which means we're using this little arrow here, the little direct to bug. So that's what we're navigating on. The other thing we can do now is our 5 A's before the approach. Let's start with ATIS. So let's tune the tower frequency, 250.2. And let's get the weather.
Rider 1, Changju approach, 2923. Rider 11, Changju approach, 180 at 24 knots.
Okay, that's a pretty stiff crosswind. We'll give it a try anyway. So that's ATIS, altimeter's done. Avionics, let's set it up for the approach. So we're going to want 42 X-ray on the TACAN. ILS is going to be 111.7, course 230. That's all already dialed in. Command steering is on. That concludes avionics. Approach brief. You should brief the full approach, including the missed approach, and definitely don't assume that you're going to land. Assume you're going to go missed until proven otherwise. Okay, there's 10,000. Let's decrease our descent rate to slow down. And lastly is airplane descent checklist, landing light on. That's the 5 A's before an approach. $1,000 to go. Okay, there's 7,000, and we're 4 miles from No Song. We're about to cross. And there's a cross. Let's switch to TACAN mode and do the 7 T's. So turn, it's right turns in the hold. Time will defer till we're outbound. Tune and twist we've already done. Throttle, we'll just hold 250. Talk, we need to tell approach that we've entered the hold. So we'd say Changju approach, rider 1, entered the hold, 1330 local, 7,000. And think. So once we're outbound, we're going to start the timer. And once we're inbound, we're going to prepare for the arc. Okay, there's 13 DME, start the timer. 59 seconds on the clock, so when it's 59 again, we'll start the inbound turn. And we're holding 300 because on the outbound portion of a hold, you hold a heading, not a course. Now there's a pretty stiff crosswind for this hold, so if we were to do more than one lap, we would start calculating a good wind correction angle. There's more information on that on the 70-second IFR checklist, but since we're only doing one lap, we're just going to hold 300 on the nose. And we're doing the hold at 7,000. Once we turn onto the arc, we can descend to 3,800. It's always good to brief this stuff well in advance so that you're ready to go when it's time to descend. There's 59 again. Let's make another right turn to intercept the 120 course. Okay, and we're going to get ready to flip the CDI over. It doesn't really matter what direction the arrow is pointing because this is an HSI, so you'll never get reverse sensing. In other words, the CDI will always deflect in the direction you need to go in order to re-intercept. But the arrow can sometimes be a good mnemonic and reminder. Probably going to overshoot, but that's okay. That was probably the wind blowing us back towards the course that caused us to overshoot. Okay, at 10 DME, we're going to make our left turn for the arc and flip-flop the CDI over. We might not get back on course before 10 DME, that's okay. Okay, there's 10 DME, turn, left turn, time not necessary, tune already done, twist. Let's go to 300 on the course. And throttle, we're going to descend now to 3,800. Talk, we'd tell approach that we're leaving the hold, and think. We are descending to 3,800, and we're flying the 13 DME arc. So we've already crossed the 300 course, so let's continue decreasing the course. We're ultimately going to 230, and we're just about to cross the 290 course. Let's go to 280. Now we're at 14 DME now, so we're coming on the outside of our arc. So we're going to tighten our, we're going to fly a more acute angle once we get back on heading. Now let's monitor our speed. Okay, there's 280 and 1,000 to go. 270 now. Remember, 230 is our target. That's the final bearing, final approach course. Okay, so now we're at 15 miles, so we're going to continue turning, fly that acute course. And we're coming up on 3,800 feet. Okay, so we'll level off at 3,800 and start to slow down a bit too, get closer to 200 knots. Okay, there's 270, let's turn it to 260, and we got a mile to go before we're back on course. So we're going to continue flying an acute course rather than a right angle. Now the chart says to begin the turn for the final approach at the 060 radial, so we'll do that. Okay, there's the intercept for 260. We're going to 250. And we are at 13 DME, so we're going to fly right angles now. All right, let's go down to 240. And that's the 060 radial. So once we cross this, we're going to start our 90-degree turn to the final approach course and get ready to switch to ILS navigation. Okay, our next altitude is 2,600 feet, which once we start our turn inbound, we can descend to. Okay, there's the cross. Let's set the course to 230. That's the final approach course. Beginner descent to 2,600 feet. And let's do our before landing check. So let's get our gear down. 3 green. And start getting ready for landing. Okay, coming up on 26 now. We've lost the TACAN signal, but this happens every time. It's very unfortunate, but we can also just follow the ILS in at this point. So we're going to make the ILS needles come alive and use those for the portion where we don't have TACAN reception. In real life, you'd probably have to go missed if this happened. So we're going to hold 2,600 until we intercept the glide slope, then we'll follow that down. And we'll intercept the localizer portion of the ILS. Let's keep our speed up. We're starting to get slow. At some point, we'd be told to switch to tower. We've already done that when we got the ATIS. Normally you would, of course, get the ATIS on your VHF so that you can continue to talk to approach, but we're just, kind of doing this differently because I'm flying by myself here. Okay, the needles are starting to come in. Let's get aligned on the final approach course. And let's review our minimums. 287 feet, we'll call it 300 feet. The intercept altitude for the final approach fix is 2,000 feet. And we'll do our final 7 Ts then. So we're at 9 DME now, which means we're cleared to go down to 2,000 feet, but we're just going to continue following the needles down. As you can see, the TACAN's back. That's wonderful, but we can also just follow the ILS needles. The offset that we have to use is giving us a really good idea of the kind of crosswind we can expect. As you can see, we're offset about 15 degrees off the runway heading, so you can expect a pretty good crosswind. Okay, there's 2,000 feet, should be at 7 DME, it is. So that's our final approach fix. So turn, not necessary. Time, not necessary. Tune, twist, throttle, talk, think, all not necessary. Except for thinking is always necessary. So we're just going to follow the needles down. Our minima is 287 feet and 800 meters visibility. Okay, that's 1,600 for 300. $1,400 for 300. $1,300 for 300. $1,100 for 300. $1,000 for 300. 900 for 300. 800 for 300. 700 for 300. 600 for 300. 500 for 300. 400 for 300. I've got the runway lights in sight. Because of the stiff crosswind, we're going to land pretty high up on the staple. So let's just kind of take our sweet time getting slow here.
Rider 11, Cheongju Tower, next time wait your turn.
And that's how it's done. Well, except for the runway overrun.